That Friday night in the tavern was like any other. Music was playing, people were laughing, and occasionally glasses clinked in the air. The space was filled. I was a bartender, and I loved this mayhem. I am 31 years old, go by Tanya, and I adore my work. It's about the relationships, the tales, and the people more than it is about serving drinks. I had no idea that evening how much my life was going to alter. The throng began to diminish about midnight. One man entered while I was cleaning the counter. Was immediately on edge about him. His eyes flitting about as though he were searching for something or someone. He exuded a nervous energy. Grinning as usual, asked what he would like to drink. Not that he responded. Rather, he took a knife out and yanked the register for the money. Though I was trying to remain composed, my heart was racing. I stepped gingerly to open the register, trying to avoid his acting rashly. But he reached out to grab the money before I could. My side itched sharply, and everything darkened. I was gone from the bar by the time I woke up, watching the tumultuous scene below. I was floating over my body. I could see the bar employees in disbelief, some sobbing, some on their phones, most likely phoning my family, and the paramedics scurrying to stabilize me. It was bizarre, akin to seeing a movie about someone else. Then all around me vanished, and I was in this amazing, warm, light-filled space. Love itself seemed to be around me. I saw him at that point, God. Though it sounds absurd, it was obvious who he was. I really sensed that everything will work out because he exuded compassion and calm. Am I dead? Shaking, I asked. Not yet, he said softly. Tanya, you have questions. Ask them. He seems to have let a mental floodgate open. I started to ask questions I had no idea I had. How come this happened to me? Why is there suffering at all? He smiled so kindly to me. Challenges abound in life, Tanya. They mold you, strengthen you, and impart important knowledge. Even as horrible as it is, this event will alter you in ways you are not yet aware of. I considered the agony, the terror. Still, why? How come me? Sometimes unfortunate things happen to decent people, not as a kind of retribution but rather as a means of advancing the greater good. Over time, you will grasp more. Not content, I went on to the next urgent question. Why not my family? Those of my friends, will things work out for them? They are going to. You will all get closer as a result. It will demonstrate the actual strength of your relationships. I stopped and considered my bar buddies and parents. Should I fail, what then? You would be with them in a different capacity if that were the case. But Tanya, you have more time left. You have a great deal more to accomplish. Relief came, but I was still full of questions. How does life fit together? Why do I exist? Grinning, he said, to love, to learn, to grow is the meaning of life. Your decisions and experiences have molded your own special purpose. No matter how little, you can change the world. A second later, I was still, taking in what he had said. Would I wake up remembering all of this? Everything you need to remember, you will. The remainder will remain with you and unconsciously direct you. I had a pull as though I was being pulled back to my body. As I absorbed this, I'm not ready to go back just yet. Wait, how much more do I want to know? On my shoulder, he put a consoling hand. Tanya, you will get more chances. You are only starting your trip now. That was when the light around me began to go out, and I became acutely aware of the ache in my side once more. When I opened my eyes, the hospital room was lit brilliantly. There were my folks, relief and worry carved on their features. My throat was so dry when I tried to talk. I told my mother I was all right by squeezing her hand instead. Days and weeks later, I gave what had transpired a lot of thought. Both the questions I posed and the responses I got stuck with me. I began to view life differently, valuing the little things in life, the relationships I had with others, and the affection I had taken for granted too frequently. I'm fortunate to be alive. The doctors told me. My important organs had been millimeters away from the knife. I survived by miracle, they said. To be honest, I agreed. Though things gradually got back to normal at the pub, I wasn't the same. I understood the fragility and beauty of life better and felt more purposeful. In an effort to encourage others to value their lives and the people in them, I told those who would listen my experience. A few weeks after I started back at work, one evening after closing, I was by myself at the bar. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator behind the counter filled the calm space. Sitting there, I considered all that had transpired. There were still a ton of stuff I didn't quite get. After that, what? To the deserted chamber, I murmured. How am I meant to use this second shot? I sensed a warm presence next me, as though in answer. It was obvious even if it was modest. It seemed as though God was with me, reassuring me that I wasn't by myself. Little things were more apparent to me. Morning sunshine streaming through the windows, friends laughing, and my parents giving me a hug. I came to see how many of these little lovely moments there were in life that I had been ignoring. A regular by the name of Joe entered the bar one evening as I was closing it. He was one of those reserved men that sat drinking beer at the end of the bar every time. He seemed different that evening, even though we seldom spoke much. He had an unhappy appearance. Joe here? Oh, hey, you. Leaning on the counter, I asked. He threw back his head and groaned. Very much on my mind, Titania. Everything has been difficult lately. I gave a nod, sensed something connecting. You are heard. Everybody seems to be doing too much at times. Joe gave me a true, long look for the first time. The last few days, you seem different. Better. How might that have changed? I pondered before deciding to share my story with him. I related the stabbing, the theft, and the amazing trip I took. Told how I met God and what I asked. By the time my narrative ended, Joe was crying. Amazing, Tanya. Nothing at all comes to mind. Putting a hand on his, I stretched out. Never forget that there is hope no matter how bad things get. Not alone are you. For the first time in months, Joe grinned. Truly. To Tanya, thanks. I needed to hear that. I had never had such a sense of fulfillment as Joe exited the pub that evening. Maybe telling my tale and giving others hope was my goal. I carried on sharing my story with everybody who would listen in the weeks that followed. I began lending a hand at a nearby shelter to people going through difficult times. Though not always easy, it seemed right. Little deeds of goodwill at a time seemed to be changing things. Sarah is the young woman I met one day when I was volunteering at the shelter. Early in her 20s, she had a haunting look in her eyes. She brought up memories for me of the lost and aimless me before the stabbing. Once we started chatting, told her my tale. With wide-eyed incredulity, Sarah listened carefully. Tanya, it is wonderful. I wish I could have such experience, she remarked. I gave a shake. No near-death experience is necessary to find purpose in life, Sarah. All you have to do is let your heart to expand and seek for the beauty all around you. Sarah grinned, a tiny, hesitant one. I will try. I got to know Sarah really well over time. She began to emerge and find delight in the small things. She even started helping other suffering people at the shelter by volunteering. Though life continued as usual, it seemed like a gift every day. And I would find myself muttering a thank you to the one who had given me another shot in the quiet times. Although things at the bar were different now, I still working there. Now I was different. Making friends and hearing their stories as well as telling mine brought me happiness. I came to see that my goal went beyond large, extravagant gestures to include little deeds of kindness that might make a difference in someone's life.